for bringing your team from KVU in. It was a treat to have that and to have you here. At some point in the near future, we'll have Patty actually come and speak to the group. She is amazing. If you haven't had a chance to meet her, you should do so. At one point in your career, I think, Patty, you were the youngest general manager of a television station in the nation, correct?
Well, I don't know if I was the youngest at the time, but I sure was young.
Well, you were the best. You were the best.
At the same time, yes, you're correct. There are very few women, and I think that's what would interest most people here. Back then, there were like 2 women general managers. That was it. Wow.
We have so many stories that are just riveting. But welcome. We really enjoy having everyone here tonight. My name is Jan Ryan, and I am the founder of Women at Austin and a serial entrepreneur. I think you could say that my passion right now in life is really about the early stage, and particularly women, and really seeing women come to the forefront of being able to express themselves and realize some visions that really in the past and when I was younger weren't necessarily possible. So thank you for being here. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have an action-packed, fast-paced event. We've got several wonderful speakers. We have some cameo speakers coming in, appearances. Ingrid Vanderbilt, I just see you in the back. We have an award that we will be presenting to one of our community that has made a big impact on women entrepreneurs. Jimmy Trabig is his name, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. I think that we really have this opportunity to make Austin the most accessible, supportive city in the nation. For women entrepreneurs. We have had over the last 10 months, we've only been going the last 10 months, some amazing success stories and some amazing progress in just bringing people together and having women getting funded. And we'll talk a little bit about some of that in a little bit later. But who can remember the one rule that I always have when we're together? Only one rule is that we all leave our Superwoman capes at the door, right? That I am so convicted that authenticity is what makes the magic for women, and being able to like tonight, to talk to each other with our guards down is when we start to learn. So that is the only rule. I have to say, this is another sold out event. This has been such a crazy last week, but the event sold out within 5 days. We have 78, 80 people on the waiting list. It may be more than that, and I'm sorry about that, but I am so glad that you guys are here, and we'll be talking a little bit more about some other opportunities that we have for smaller, more curated groups as well. We have some roundtables, we have some topic-oriented programming that can come, and we'll let you know a little bit more about that. We started Women at Austin, though, a year ago, or a little less than a year ago, to really try to bring women together and give them a killer advantage, if you will, in having a trusted network. In Austin, when I had left actually the company that had acquired my company 2 years ago, Lithium, a little less than 2 years ago, I stayed and integrated the 2 teams, and then I left and decided to do a lot more mentoring. And I was very surprised to see that women were much more siloed in what they did. And they were working in those silos trying to get the fonts right, and not necessarily coming out to show other people their deal and to get feedback early in the cycle when you could still do some sort of course correction when it's necessary. So when you think about what we stand for, this is really not about networking per se, even tonight. This is more about making connections that will make a difference in what you're doing when you go back out of here. That network, which women typically have not had in the past, to really create those kinds of trusted relationships, which we do so well, but that enable us to hire better, to find co-founders, to be able to have someone to call when we need to ask a question, to be inspired. This all doesn't happen in one night, by the way. It's a progress, and it's something that we have to remember that it's proactive going forward. I was thinking about during the networking event earlier, our time to be together, someone was asking me about some of these studies that were coming out. I don't know if some of you have seen them, but there were Babson College, released a study. There's a couple of them that are kind of negative about women not being able to have received much of a chance for venture capital. And it really occurred to me that sometimes we forget just how new women entrepreneurship is. This is something that is evolving. It's a relatively new paradigm. And I'll give you a true story. About 3 weeks ago, I introduced a woman entrepreneur to an investor that I know. And then I followed up afterwards. He was in her space, so I thought it was a good link. And I followed up afterwards to see what he thought. And he's a good guy. I won't tell you his name. He's actually in Dallas, but he's a good guy. But he said, yeah, she really, really surprised me. At first, when I saw her, I just didn't think she looked anything like an entrepreneur, but I really liked her deal. So I think both of us sort of realized what he said at the same time, and he looked a little askance, but I had to say, well, what is a woman entrepreneur supposed to look like? Is there a hoodie involved? Is there Skechers? And he honestly said, at this point, he was kind of ironic. He said, I may not even know what a woman entrepreneur looks like. And so I think sometimes it's interesting to stop and think about how far we've come, but also realize we've still got a ways to go. The narrative still has to change. We need to get more visible images out there so they can see what women entrepreneurs looks like. And look around you. These are real women, real stories, and we don't look that much alike. We come from all different types of places. The one thing I love about working with women entrepreneurs, though, is that most entrepreneurial women really don't want to play games, and they don't want to posture. They want to change the world. And they truly do want to change the world. And that's why I think it's so important that we come together and we understand how to get to know each other and make that happen and multiply. So let me, I want to shed some light on one more thing before I carry on with our fast pace. And that is kind of a counterintuitive point. I've been working a lot with women recently that seem to be very, very intimidated by the funding process. And if you've chosen to do bootstrapping, no worries. But if you do desire funding, I want to say that this idea of feeling like everybody else knows something and you don't needs to stop. When you are going out for funding, for instance, this particular relationship that I introduced this guy to in Dallas, he's had her back. He really is interested in her deal, but he likes what she knows about her customer. There's some fantastic customer stories that she has and customer testimonials. So if you don't know everything about the mechanics of startups, and if you don't know at the beginning, things about valuations and different types of debt instruments and employee agreements, don't sweat it. Please do not sweat it. Those are the kind of things you can learn. That's fixable. In fact, that's the kind of things you can learn at Women at Austin and some of the roundtables that we're talking about. The thing that you can't fix is, do you really know your customer? Do you really have a lock on who the customer is? And are you building something that they want and that they'll pay for? And so that is more to the issue. So let's get started. As I mentioned, we have a very, very, very fast pace. And Cindy, you keep me on track when I get off. We will have a featured panel towards the end of the day, and I want you to know that today we're gonna make some time for feedback from the audience. We want you to ask questions, and we want you to be able to. In fact, Larissa, where are you? There you are, Lisette, Martinez. We want you to be able to use our, do we have our handle on there? I don't think we do. ATX Bold, where is it?
Oh, the hashtag is ATX Bold. It'll be on the slide with the handles for our speakers.
Oh, okay. ATX Bold is the hashtag. So if you want to tweet about what's going on, if that's for those of you that have Twitter, if you want to share insights, please use ATX Bold. But also, if you want to have a question that's answered, please just send a question to ATX Bold or DM us. If you haven't already followed us, do so in Twitter, and we will answer that question either tonight or later on. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about our sponsors. I just do want to give a a big shout out to Capital Factory and to Google. They're fantastic sponsors, and we would not be able to do what we're doing tonight and come together without them. And Cindy's going to talk a little bit more about that later on. One other thing, an important part of Women at Austin is the fabric and the steering committee that's inside of that. So there are 19 steering committee members that most of them are in the room right now, that we started to ideate this last fall. And we came together to really try to help, or try to determine how we could help Austin be that #1 place for women entrepreneurs. And it's almost a year ago, guys, that this happened. But I wanted to just recognize the steering committee that's here tonight. If you could stand, I would appreciate it. All of you that are in the steering committee. These female mentors constantly inspire me, not just because of their success and their leadership, but because they really do have a heart to give back and to pave the way for others. So it's been a tremendous experience, and we're going to keep going. So Cindy, I think I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about our sponsors and let you have it.
Sounds good. As Jan said, we're very thankful.
Hold it for a second.
Hello. As Jan said, we're very thankful for our sponsors.
She doesn't need us.
And first of all, Capital Factory, I just can't even tell you how amazing the team is, helping set up, working with them, and I'd like a big round of applause for them. It's a very, very special venue, and there are 140 of you here, if you can believe that. Google is also just an incredible supporter of our vision for what we're doing, and we're actually going to have Google talk to us a little bit here at the end. I want to thank our other sponsors, and when I say the name of your company, I would like for you to stand, please. And the first would be Innovision. If there's a representative here, please. Innovision is, they do user experience. Memorize their faces, because if you would like an opportunity to get a free consultation, you can go to those people and they can talk to you about helping you design the perfect user experience, and they worked with us, and they're brilliant folks. Anthony Barnum, Public Relations. Melissa's in the back. Her firm helped orchestrate the Women in Austin acknowledgement we got. Women in Austin, what do we call that? The certificate thing.
The mayor actually declared, we'll talk about this in just a minute, but he declared, I'll just say it out, the mayor did declare Wednesday, October 8th as Women in Austin Day. It's in their proclamation. So we have an official, we almost had him here tonight with us, so that would have been very cool. But you know, thank you to Anthony Barnum for that.
Yes. And then Michael Mendoza, our photographer. Gonzalez, I'm so sorry. I looked right at that. But they can't see you. Or maybe they've all seen you. Yay! WP Engine, another great sponsor helping us happen with Heather. Austin Community Foundation, they actually help us act, not really as a nonprofit, but help us as we do the funds, and because we really are operating from all the generosity of our Massage.com. There we go. And if you will like Massage.com on Facebook, you will be entered to win a free massage. And I think I have everybody.
Do you want to tell them that also is Dan Graham's venture?
That's Dan Graham, Build a Sign. That is also one of his ventures. So another serial entrepreneur and great supporter of our community. So thank you very much. Heidi? Yes, I do. And so Heidi, if you'll come up here, please. Heidi is Chief of Staff of the Americas for Google Work. All right. We're glad to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. They asked me to share a little bit about why we're interested in this and sponsoring it. And obviously, it's a great opportunity for Google to help get involved and give back to the community. But it's something that's near and dear to our hearts. If you've been following the press lately, we came out a few months ago with some diversity stats about the company, which were not impressive. And unfortunately, it's the reality of the technology industry, and it's nothing unique to Google, but there was much debate internally about how much do we share, how specific do we get, and ultimately the conclusion, and I have to applaud Laszlo, who leads our People Ops team, was that if we don't actually put the issue out there publicly, it's never going to be addressed. So much of what Jan said before, just in terms of how companies are funded, how startups happen, the state of computer science and education, and what's happening with girls, really has to be at the forefront of things that we're talking about. And so we're proud to be a sponsor, and we appreciate the opportunity, and I was so pleased to be asked to come and join. And I wanted to talk just for a minute about some of the things that you guys can do and things that you might be able to take advantage of as you're starting companies. The first thing is that diverse teams create better products and a better user experience. So we firmly believe that. One of the reasons that we find this to be so problematic as a company, our own stats that is because we try to make products for everybody in the world. And if you don't have people that represent everybody in the world, you're not serving that real audience. So we absolutely believe that it's fundamental that all companies that are really trying to serve large markets have a diverse base. There are a number of statistics. Google for Entrepreneurs, which if you haven't been to that website, you should check it out. They've got stats on women-led tech companies, I think, have a return on capital or return on investment of about 35% over the average. If you look at the revenue results, they're also higher on women-led tech companies versus the average. So there's, not just in technology, with any type of company, there's something to be said for having a diverse set of people in the leadership ranks. So we're super supportive of that. And I thought I would talk for a second about what we've done at Google, because I think that there are lessons that any of us can take. So Google is if you haven't heard, Eric Schmidt and Jonathan Rosenberg, who Eric was he's still our executive chairman, but he was the adult supervision for the founders for a while. Was the CEO for many years. They've just released a book that speaks to kind of how Google operates. So I would encourage you as startups, not to copy the methodology by any stretch, but certainly just to be educated, because it was a fundamentally different approach to how you run a business and some of the principles that were put in place. And it's certainly an interesting read. I haven't gotten all the way through it, but it's something that's worth taking a look at, just because the philosophies are pretty counterintuitive to things that are taught in business school and other things that are kind of commonly accepted. I also think that culture is what's contributed a lot to how Google chooses where it's going to place its resources and where it gets involved. So we have a concept called ERGs, which is employee resource groups, and they're organically grown, grassroots things that pop up. And I thought I would tell a story a little bit about how I got interested and involved in Women at Google. So Women at Google is similar to Women at Austin. And I've been there since 2007, and for years I used to have these events show up on my calendar, like Women Leaders at Google and various things. And inevitably I was out of town and wasn't in California or wherever it was happening, and never joined any of them. And a couple of years ago, the groups came together. There was a women engineers at Google, there was just a women's group at Google, and then there was this women leaders group. The groups came together and they formed Women at Google, and they put together kind of a designed day and a half offsite for some of the leaders to really try to motivate people to get involved and be part of the solution. And so I went to that, and it was both eye-opening, inspiring, and frightening. They had luminaries, people like Ariana Huffington, to technology visionaries, to filmmakers, to activists, to people that have, really been involved in women's education, women's health, things like that. And they presented all these facts about women in the workforce. And I think I'd always just been busy doing my job and really hadn't paid attention. I knew the technology world was a man's world to a certain extent, but I didn't. It was just amazing to me, like how actually pathetic it is. So from that point forward, I kind of vowed to, be involved and take a personal interest in it. And so kind of circling back to the things that I think that we can do, the first thing is that everybody has to be aware. And I think we've come a long way. I look at the company's efforts to trying to make people aware of the problems with the industry as a whole. I look at other initiatives like the employee resource groups where people can take steps to have an impact in certain areas. And then I look at what we personally can do. And I believe that all of us have an obligation, and I really applaud you guys for setting this up, because I think the whole concept of creating mentors, creating advocates, creating a network is super important, and it's uncomfortable, and nobody likes to, not everybody, I shouldn't say nobody. Not everybody likes to talk. I mean, I was talking to Gerardo, who's in the back of the room and is with our policy team, about how when I go to something like this, I tend to, talk to 1 or 2 or 3 people and not necessarily branch out and talk to everybody. And I think everybody feels that way, but this is an opportunity of peers. And just like you said, I mean, being authentic and not having, having your guard down, it's a great place to create relationships. So I would encourage you all to take advantage of that. I do think that there's one thing that I'd like to say that I think is important, and I don't know if anyone saw it or not, but Alan Eustace, who has headed different teams at Google from an engineering perspective, wrote an article yesterday that was in USA Today, and it was I think the title of it was something like, what's missing from the conversation about women in tech? And the answer was men. And so I know that a lot of times, we try to create, and we've done this ourselves, like even women at Google for Work, we have a group that gets together and we invite men to be a part of it, because I believe that you can't just be crying out about a problem. In order to solve the problem, the people that are involved in it have to be part of the solution. So I definitely think that it's important for us to make sure that men understand their obligation in helping us solve this problem too. And it's not just a women issue, it's a diversity issue in general, particularly in the tech world. So I would say, everybody has daughters, sisters, brothers, mothers, and they have an interest in it just for the sake of their family and their relationships. And they're more than willing to get involved. And to your point about the conversation that you had with your friend in Dallas, I think that more often than not, I mean, I work for a man, I'm on a team with all men, and we talk about diversity a lot and how we need to add to diversity. And yet they all are supportive of it, but they don't really know what to do. And occasionally, like something, we'll be doing a talent review or something, and something will come out of somebody's mouth, and I'm just amazed. I'm like, I can't believe you just said that. I look at my HR business partner, who's the only other woman in the room, and we cringe a little bit. But I think a lot of times intentions are good, and people don't even understand things that they say and the impact that they have. So to your example of what does a woman entrepreneur look like, I mean, it's just, it's up to us to help get them involved and have them help us solve this problem, because I think that they're more than willing to. And I see a few men in the audience, and I thank you for being here. And I would encourage each of you to think about, as you kind of go forward, how do you create diverse teams, and how do we make men part of the solution?
It's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you are a part of the community member, so welcome. And it is absolutely so true. You have no idea how many times I get contacted actually by men who want to be involved, because men have daughters now, and they realize it's an economic issue, not just a woman's issue. So thank you for bringing that up. So let's move to the part of our program where we're going to give our first Elevate Award. And the Elevate Award, again, is because Women at Austin knows that we want to recognize our mentors and our advocates. We know that we are where we are as women and as successful women because we stood on the shoulders of other people. And we want to be able to set that kind of example twice a year through this award to a very special person in the community who is an investor or an advocate or someone who's really helped women to go further. And we will be, as I say, twice a year doing this award, but we'll be turning it over to the community to vote and actually select that person that we could recognize. But this first person, and Jimmy Trebig, I want you to come up here and if you would stand with me. it was very easy. Where did his award go? Right here. It was very, very easy when we thought about who to pick for this award to bring up Jimmy's name, because Jimmy has been in our camp, ladies, for many, many years, and we're going to honor him tonight with this award. With maybe the best way you can do it is with some quotes of people that have worked with him. But Jimmy is and has been on the board of several of our own Women at Austin companies. He has been an amazing entrepreneurial advocate, men and women in Austin. But let me just read you a little bit about his background. He's been a venture capitalist in Austin since 1996, and he's with NEA, New Enterprise Associates. He's been a director and is a director on the boards of various Austin-based firms like Motion Computing, Tabbed Out, Illumitex, Texture Media, and on the board of the trustees for the Seton Healthcare family. Jimmy was featured in the documentary film Something Ventured, which was actually premiered in 2011. I remember this clearly. And it's a very cool documentary. Our guy here is the star. He focuses on contributors to the early successes of and the history of Silicon Valley, where he actually launched Tandem Computers. He founded and was the CEO of Tandem Computers, which was a Silicon Valley manufacturer of fault-tolerant computers. And they delivered their first product in '75, went public in '77, ranked by Inc. magazine as the fastest growing public company in '80, and was on the Fortune 500 list of the largest companies in '84. Jimmy actually so-called retired in '96 when Tandem was a $2.3 billion company with 8,000 people worldwide. Jimmy, we want to give you this award for what you've done since then. And continue to do for women. I know personally, you were an investor in Social Dynamics. When I came to Austin 17 years ago, Jimmy was on the board of Vignette, and I know the kind of care, the advice, the net examples of things you bring to the table and what it means. But there are others that have said the same thing. So when I think about Krista, who you are on Krista's board right now with Textured Media, Krista says Jimmy identifies and nurtures the potential in the individual and has the gift for igniting a spark of motivation into a greater flame. In my 7 years of knowing Jimmy, his boundless gifts of time and enthusiasm in sharing lessons learned has empowered and inspired many entrepreneurs of all shapes and sizes. It's a gift to know him and to continue to learn from him. Jean Ann Booth, another person that you've mentored and were on the board. You were chairman of the board of Luminary Micro, which is, I don't know if Jean Ann's here tonight. Jean Ann is rushing in. She texted me from actually an investor meeting, but she currently is the CEO of Life Assist. But when she looks back over the 10 years of mentoring that she got from Jimmy, she can actually get teary about it. She said that a mentor is someone who sees more talent and capability within you than when you see yourself, and provides you with the inspiration and the courage to reach higher without surrender. Jimmy was the leader who championed Luminary Micro at NEA, and he's been my friend for 10 years. These go on and on, guys. Aruni Gunasariam says, because you've always made time, Jimmy, discuss my ideas, encourage me. He tends to look at the whole person, regardless of their gender, ethnicity, kid situation, or even if they have blue hair or tattoos. These things that you hear consistently about Jimmy are that he doesn't see male, female, black, or white. He doesn't judge that way. He gives tirelessly of his time, and he just so happens to be giving to a lot of women and has inspired us through several years. And so it's my total honor to give you this award.
Well, good evening to all of you, and I would like to thank you very, very much for having me here this evening and for this award. I feel very proud to receive the award. It really makes me feel special or great or some word, I don't know, to be here with the women, many women I know here who I've either been on their board, been an investor, or have worked with them on funding or their strategy. It's a special feeling inside you when you see people and you realize how much we shared in experiences and successes, and I just can't thank you enough. There's so many terrific women in Austin, and I'm proud to be part of the group. And I have to tell you that, heck, I'm really lucky because I also worked for 25 years with a lot of fantastic women at Tandem Computers. Tandem was an early company in Silicon Valley and a leader and a pioneer, and a lot of people thought. Diversity, stock options for everybody, beer bust on Friday, which actually is a woman concept. Now listen to the idea. If you have a company and you're growing 100% a year, from 200 to 400 million, you have so many new people. Women, people from Germany, people from Japan, from all over the world. And by having a beer bust on Friday, you bring everybody together in an environment that isn't negative, so to speak, like for a woman that has a husband, doesn't want her to go to the bar and interact at night. It's a place where everyone can communicate and relate and drink even coffee. But I won't go through all that. So, as a founder and a CEO of Tandem, which had a large number of people, a lot of incredible women, a lot of our customers were banks with women, our partners and suppliers, outstanding women. And despite what you might imagine, Silicon Valley had some fantastic entrepreneurial CEO successes with women. And one of my favorite was a very good friend of mine, Sandy Kurtzik, Ask Computer. In the early 70s, started the company in her bedroom and built a large company and sold it for $50 million to Hewlett-Packard. That was one of the first really successful startups in Silicon Valley. Another thing you might not think about is the co-founder of Cisco was a woman. The point of all of this really is when a woman comes to me to talk about starting a company, it doesn't really matter to me that she's a woman. It's not important. What's really important when you sit down and talk to someone that's interested in starting a company and doing something successful is real different. It's her vision, especially the first thing. Does someone have this idea that's so significant or really significant so that you can create a success and create wealth, return it to employees, but also it's creating wealth for the investors? Do they have that spirit? Do they have motivation? Do they have the ability to lead? Do they have the willingness to listen to a board and other people? Are they actually totally committed to success? These are the things that matter to me. And so when Jan told me about this war, she said I could have 6 minutes. So I want to talk about a couple ideas. And both of these have to do with raising money. They don't have to do so much with women, but some of it does. And actually, I will tell you that it motivated me to do some work that I hadn't done yet to help women raise money. And the first idea is, when you're about to raise money, you should study the VC firms. Not just pick one, or can I get that one, or go see one, but you should study the VC firm and the individuals that you might be dealing with. There are a lot of variables that you should have when you think about these VC firms, actually even angels. Do they invest in your type of business? Like, there's a very good firm in Houston, but they won't do consumer deals. Do they invest the amount of money that you need? Like, is this a $500,000 deal, or like for NEA, where I'm a venture partner, do you need $10 million? Third thing is, does the VC actually have money? You'd be surprised how often they don't. Have they invested in Austin? Do they invest in young CEOs with little experience, like some of you may be, like I was? I was turned down by 17 VCs when I started at TNM that ended up being worth a lot of money. Now, for all of you, you're women, and we're getting to the point here. I would look at the VC firm and see, do they have a woman working in the firm as a partner? Or do they have a man that has worked with women all of their life like me and realize how special, how smart, how motivated, how much contribution women can make, and that's never a question. If there isn't either a woman or that type of man, then I wouldn't spend time, or I would put it way down the list. So many people doing startups don't rank the VC firms by these variables and then decide who to go call on. Now, the main point here is that there's two types of VCs at a rough cut. One type are VCs who have run companies or operated companies. Like NEA, that all the top people have run companies. Others are financial VCs, they haven't. And they may not have worked with a lot of women and realize that being a woman, it doesn't affect the opportunity. Now, this is a simple idea. I did one of these this morning, but I think it's a very important idea. Every time I raise money for a company, we go through that process. Now, when we needed money at Natural Curly, company I dearly love, raise your hand, Natural Curly. Yay! We found Golden Seeds out of New York. And they're all women, and they have done a great job for us. But they're all women, so for the fun of it, I decided, is this good BS I'm sharing with you? Is it real? Can you find VC firms out there? And I really got pretty excited about this over the weekend. I talked to Mike Maples, Sr., who lives here, and I found out that his son, who worked in a startup here, has a VC firm in Silicon Valley called Floodgate. And they have an outstanding woman, 2 partners, 1 man that's worked, and a woman, both VCs. They want to do deals here in Austin. They're going to come here. They do smaller deals. I mean, like $250,000 or something like that. And it came to me, what we need is better list of woman-friendly VCs. And that becomes an economic tool.
He's setting up Ingrid Vanderbilt with Bell right now. You don't know.
I don't even know about that. Now, the second idea is the one of vision. When you come to me to talk about needing money or wanting money, this is something you must have. You must be able to return the money to the investors and make money for your employees. So it has to be really a good idea. Now, here I'm going to show that I'm going to share a story from Silicon Valley. I used to have to give speeches all the time. This was the 1984 Olympics. This was the first time they had a gold medal for a woman in the marathon. And I used to run marathons, that's why I like this so much. And there was a woman named Joan Benoit. She wasn't given a chance to win. She had a knee operation 17 days before. And even with a good knee, she wasn't as fast as the Russian women. But she won. It was a pretty spiritual thing. If you ever cry when there's a track race or something, that's how I felt. So she described afterwards why she won. And I think it's an interesting story because she said, I imagined every step of the way in the marathon. And then I re-examined it and I thought, what did I have to do at each step to win? And she said, I became so dedicated and focused on that, and I went out and did it, and I won. And she's actually pretty famous for that. Now, it's that spirit that you need when you're raising money. It's just different. You have to figure out the steps to liquidity and success. you have to figure out how you think you're going to do that. And you have to believe it. It's got to be pretty true. And you have to become very committed to creating a great success. And then when you come to see me, you say, Jimmy, I'm going to create a great success. I can do it. And then you should say it twice. It's better twice to say that, you know. You got to have that spirit, and it's got to come through, because think about a venture capitalist. Every day they see 10 deals, and the other one's a man, and they're all lying. That's a joke. Anyway, good luck to all of you, and thanks again for listening.
Thank you, Jimmy. Ingrid Vanderbilt, come on down and just give us a quick update. We are so pleased to have Ingrid stop in a cameo appearance, because she is representing one of those women-friendly, in fact, women specifically focused angel, Bell Capital. And I will tell you, all the studies show that women are being funded more and more and more by angels today. It's the fastest growth area for women in funding. But let me just give it to you.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with you. And Jan, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. And I had no idea how special this night was actually going to be, because Jimmy, you're telling stories, but back when I was in my early 20s, Jimmy was one of the few guys here in town that took meetings with me and was helping to mentor me through my first tech company. And I'll never forget going to your house the first time where you have meetings, and he said, don't worry, you go down BK Road and just look for the ham towers. Do any of you know what ham towers are?
Ham radio.
Okay. Ham radio, thank you. The ham radio, do you still have those? Yeah, so go down BK Road, and if you see these ginormous towers, hey, it's not some corporation, it's Jimmy's house. So now you all know how to find him. So it's great to see you. It's been a long time. So I'll keep mine short and sweet. So I just came off my tenure as the entrepreneur in residence for Dell. I've built and sold a number of different companies, a number of different industries. The one Jimmy was helping me with, we actually lost money on that deal, unfortunately. But all of my companies have been tech-related companies. I went on to work with Michael Dell, and was really blessed over the past 3 years to play a critical role in the transformation of the company back to its entrepreneurial roots. So I led development of all of our entrepreneurial initiatives, set up a $100 million debt fund, which is now a $250 million debt fund, and really focused on how can we start leveraging the assets of these corporations and the people here in town to help not only entrepreneurs succeed, but help women succeed. And I will tell you, Jan, when you were talking about not really looking like an entrepreneur, in that first deal, I had a very, very difficult time raising money, because I was told, Ingrid, you don't look like, act like, sound like, or talk like any of the entrepreneurs that these investors are used to funding, and I frankly don't know that you're gonna get it done. That was not Jimmy who said that. He said, you keep at it. We finally did get it done. But those were some really, really tough times. And I committed to myself back then. I will never forget something that one of my investors, I'm sure many of you in town know, Admiral Bobby Inman, and he said, you know, as you increase in your level of success, we owe it to one another to pay it forward, and certainly for the women, help our sisters emerge as leaders, and really contribute back and really focus on what it is that we can do. So fortunately, those days of the deal that didn't work, long in the past, we've had a number of them that have. Very, very fortunate to be back here in Austin. I'm thrilled to be an angel investor here in town. In fact, one of my investments is here, Angie, who, a company called Loot First, offices here in the Capital Factory. But outside of just the angel investing, we wanted to take it a step further. And we have set up Bell Capital Austin, which is a women-run, women-led venture capital firm. We focus on women-led companies. It's based out of Detroit, run by some very close colleagues of mine. We've done a lot of business together, and I made a commitment to them that when I was finally done with what I was doing at Dell and I could breathe a little bit, that I would put the flag in the ground and I would set up Bell Capital Austin. So we are here looking for top women-led companies. We like to focus on companies that are tech-related, and we invite you to come and see us at Bell Capital. I will tell you that because it seems like everybody's sharing, 3 things I'll leave you with. Number 1, sort of as I look back on my own career, keys to success. 1 was finding an exceptional set of mentors. Jimmy, I don't know that he realized he was at the time, but he certainly was. For me, my primary mentor was George Kosmetsky, so it goes back to how important the men are in our lives. He played a critical role for me. The second thing is I figured that I needed to make sure I surrounded myself with an exceptional group of women. 7 years ago, I co-founded a group called the Billionaire Girls Club. I'll tell you right now, we're not billionaires, but we're aspiring. And this is actually, I can't stay because this is our annual retreat at my house this weekend, and 2 of them are here. So, Nikki and Carrie, business owners from around the country. So surround yourself with a group of, we recommend 5. It's a wonderful number. It's the Muhammad Yunus model. And then the third thing is, it really is critically important that as you go out and look for funding, that you find exactly what Jimmy was saying, those investors who really look beyond what you look like, sound like, act like, talk like, and really appreciate the value that you're bringing to the table and everything that you have to offer. And that's certainly why we are here. I'm enormously proud to be doing that here in Austin, and I look forward to meeting many of you here. And thank you for the opportunity.
We will look forward to having you back with us for a longer time and to get to know more of the women here. So, and congratulations on everything that you've done, especially now rolling off of the EIR position at Dell. You're now replaced with an amazing woman, Elizabeth Gore.
Yeah.
So we're well represented here in Austin. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, time for the panel. Let's come on down, girls. We have Jeanette Hill with Spot On Sciences, 3 CEOs, Krista Bailey with Texture Media, and Deb Young, CEO and founder of DoubleLine Partners. I think we need a second live mic, and that one's not.
If you hold the bottom, just hold it for a minute. Thank you.
Is there a chair for me, Austin?
Yeah, over there.
All right, well, I'm going to let each of you introduce yourself, because I know you can do that the best, and take just a very concise moment to let us know a little bit about your company and how it began. Very, very short, because we'll be getting into more a little bit later on. But Krista, let you start.
Okay, I'm Krista Bailey, the CEO of Texture Media. And actually, my management team is here tonight. If you guys would stand up. Come on, stand up. Yay, here to support Jimmy. And maybe me, I don't know. And so I'm a little bit of a different story. So Texture Media, I will keep this short. We empower and educate a community of beauty enthusiasts on the topic of hair care. So we had 25 million unique women come through our platform last year, consuming, creating, and sharing information all on the topic of hair, if you could believe it or not. So we have this community, and we monetize this community by working with brands who want to position their products in front of these influencers and hair enthusiasts. So we monetize through commerce, through media, and through packaging and insights, and getting more into consulting for these brands. But I actually started with the company 7 years ago, ran marketing for the company. 2 years in, Jimmy and Michelle, who, stand up again, Michelle, show off your curls. Talking about the passion, so Michelle started the company many years ago and brought Jimmy in. So Jimmy's been with the company longer than I have. And so she's a great person, by the way, afterwards, networking to talk to about bootstrapping and starting something from scratch. So I've been a CEO for 5 years, and I just want to congratulate Jimmy too, because he's been so giving of his time, and whenever he's been there, whenever I've needed him, and I call each moment with him my CEO in training, and it is to this day. So I'm happy to share lessons learned today. Thank
Hello, I'm Jeanette Hill, founder and CEO of Spot On Sciences. It's a medical devices company located here in Austin. We're about 4 years old. My background is in pharmaceutical research, and I found a need to get a good way to do a blood sample collection. Right now, we have to go in and do it with a big needle from your arm. So what we did is develop a small device called the Little Blue Box, or called HumaSpot. It's a way to take a blood sample with a finger stick from your home. You can get out of bed, stick your finger, put 2 drops on it. It dries inside, and then you can put it in the mail and send it to a lab. We've got these all over the world, so it's not just for our convenience. We've got them all over the world for HIV testing in Africa, in Scotland for diabetes testing, snow leopards in the Himalayas, of all things. And so it's just really grown, and I've got a great team here in town, been around for 4 years, and it's been a wild ride.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Zainab Young. I'm the founder and CEO of DoubleLine Partners. We are a technology and services company that focuses on K-12 education. What we do is we bring together all the data that a teacher needs to really get to know a student and really plan instruction for the next day. For those of you that, and then there are a lot of ed tech entrepreneurs here. Actually, Austin is a great spot for ed tech. But for those of you that know ed tech technology, a lot of the data that's captured within schools is in point solutions. And so there's an attendance module, there's grades, there's testing. And if you're a teacher that really wants to know about a student, you will have to log into each of those systems and start creating your Excel spreadsheets to manage that data. And what our company does is we come in and sit on top of those point applications, and we pull in all that data about the students and then feed it back to the teachers in a student-centric and user-friendly way, so that they can know for each student how to best improve instruction and best improve results for those students. I started my career at McKinsey, which is a consulting company, and focused a lot on software and semiconductor. And then we moved to Austin, and I worked with the Dells at their foundation, playing a mini VC role in funding projects like this. And in doing that, I realized that there was a spot in the market for a new company, and started DoubleLine in 2009. So we're about just shy of 20 million in revenues and about 90 people here in Austin, and currently working in 14 states.
Awesome. I always say that we are the sum total of our experiences, whether you're calling that from childhood or from success or failure or bumps in the road, especially for women, because we tend to bring our whole selves into deals. What I wanted to ask is, name a passion or a difficulty or experience, some sort of incident, if necessary, in your past that was either directly or indirectly responsible for connecting you to what you're doing right now.
Well, as I mentioned, my background's in pharmaceutical research, and I had worked for a lot of small companies. I love the chaos and the flexibility, and you never knew what you were going to do that day. And so I loved growing the companies, building the teams, and then the last company I was at was bought out by a larger company, so it was a great return on our investment and all. But started noticing it was quite a bit different. And so I always had these ideas, and so as part of this big, just humongous company, to get an idea into production, the process was just horrendous. It took about a year to even get to a process, and then we had a worldwide meeting where then it would vet the ideas. And everyone who got up there and talked about these ideas that they wouldn't even be able to start for another 6 months, every one of them said, our biggest threat are these small companies out there that are flexible and are kicking our butts. And my epiphany was, I want to be one of those companies. So shortly thereafter, I quit and started my company.
Awesome.
All right.
So I'm really passionate about data and informing teachers with data, and I'm going to tell you guys a story from my childhood. My parents moved to Houston from Turkey when I was in the 6th grade, and I did not speak any English. And so my mom took me to school, enrolled me, and she said, I told everybody that you don't speak English, so just sit there, and if people talk to you, just smile and be friendly, and you'll totally get the hang of it. This was in the 70s when people did not hover over their children, so she left me there. That's true. 6 weeks later, she gets a call from my science teacher and says,
Zainab is the worst student I've ever had. Not only is she failing my class, but she breaks all the rules that I have in my classroom. And when I scold her, she just sits there smiling like she could care less and is inciting the other students to rebel against me. And so my mom said, do you know that Zainab does not speak in English? And she didn't. And as unbelievable as that sounds, that happens every day in our schools, that kids fall through the cracks because a single teacher will see 150 students for about 30 to 45 minutes, 30 students in a class, and it's just impossible to know all of the stories about those kids and what they need. And so that was a huge influencer for me in terms of leaving McKinsey, going back into education, and really trying to fix some of the issues that we have with our education system. But we know that teachers do a great job of connecting with students in the classroom, but we also say that the teacher has a story based on that personal interaction, but the data has its own story about that kid, and we're really passionate about providing that story to the teacher.
So again, I think I'm a little bit different because I didn't found the company, and I remember when so my background is consumer products and services, and when I moved to Austin, Austin is changing a little bit, but it's been a software as a service tech town, and my background didn't quite fit into that. But a recruiter called me in 2007 when this company called naturallycurly.com had raised, it was the first company funded by CTAN, Central Texas Angel Networks, and they were looking for someone to come in and run marketing. 20 people now, probably 5 people then, and you look at my hair. So we cater to wavy, curly, coily-haired women, and I could not have straighter hair. Maybe it has a little bit of wave hair in this humidity. And I thought, well, what am I don't get this. I'm the person who goes and buys shampoo and conditioner every 6 months and calls it a day. And so, but I went and I met with Michelle and Gretchen, the co-founders. I spent time with Jimmy. And what I realized is, so my background, I also, consumer products and services is my background, but I also love to write. And actually, I joined an advertising agency right out of college and thought I was going to be a copywriter, and turned into an ad exec, and that led to marketing jobs. So I found that this platform, which was really driven and built by a community of women telling their hair stories, every woman has a hair story, really ignited passion within me as well, because we were providing this platform for women to embrace their natural hair texture. And so it's a little bit different, again, not as the founder, but that's really how I got involved and enjoyed every day of it.
What do you think let me turn this back on. What do you think the main mistakes that early entrepreneurs make? All three of you, been in your roles for more than 5 years. What are some of those early bumps and those mistakes that you can think of?
So, one, back to the topic of raising money, I think sometimes when you're an entrepreneur and you're starting off, you think, I want to raise just enough to get this thing done, but I don't want to raise so much that I give away a lot of equity, or maybe you're advised to do that. I think I would say raise as much as you can, because especially as a startup, you never know how you might evolve or new opportunities arise. So if you've got a great idea and you've got people behind you, raise enough to give that some gas. I think also you can be, as an entrepreneur, reactive, because you're excited about your idea and you embrace people who embrace your idea. And I think really remembering what your focus is and what your guiding light is, and not get distracted. That's even 7 years in, that's still a challenge for us, is to stay focused, to be proactive about what we want to do. But I want to hold this in.
I have more.
I think one of the biggest mistakes of all companies and all entrepreneurs is not finding the right market fit early. So, and make sure you get it right. I think, we all have those ideas. We all think everybody's going to love it. It's going to sell itself. I think everybody thinks that, but it hardly ever does. And so I think really keep working on it. Talk to your customers. Really get to know what they want. See what they will buy. I like to look at it, it's kind of the lean startup. I like to look at it as doing experiments. I'm a scientist, so you do that quick experiment, see, here's this thing, will you buy this, and what will you use it for, and what do you need it for? And I think once you really find that fit and people want it and do it, that's when you pour the money onto it, you get the investment, and you really take off. So I think people don't really get to that point. That's a big mistake.
So I'm going to talk about my experience and the mistakes that I made, which could take all night. But one of the things that was a really interesting one that one of my mentors really steered me clear from, and I'm very grateful, is that when you start your own company and you've got a couple of people working for you and you're bootstrapping it like I did, you think that you should give big titles to everyone because those initial people are the only ones that believe in you and they're working there, and they should all be VPs and COOs. And one of my mentors, when I was talking about our org structure, said, you really want to reserve those titles for when you actually grow and become successful and you're going to attract that next level of talent that's going to take you to the next place. So as lovely as these people are, they should not be VPs and COOs. And so do think about that. As you build your team, don't build it just for today, but what your company is going to be several years from now. And those titles and those promises are really hard to take back, so make sure that you've got the right team in place if you're giving away those titles.
Awesome. I think we really could spend all night, and it would be fun. We should probably bring beers in sometime and do a roundtable on just mistakes and how we learn from those, because it's a lot of fun to even think about it as you're talking. But I want to go back to what I was saying earlier about finding that right customer, getting a lock on the customer that will buy. And Jeanette, you were alluding to this. What are some of the ways that you've been able to really listen to your customer, understanding what their needs are? What have you found that worked?
I mean, nothing beats having a conversation. We're privileged in that sense because we sell in a very enterprise way. So we sell typically to state education agencies. There's 50 of them. It's easy to call on them and better understand their needs. But one of the things that we did really right when we first started was before we built our product, we went across the country and had focus groups with over 3,500 educators. And we showed up with a straw man of what the interface was going to look like, and we gave everybody a color printout. And we said, grade this like you would a student paper. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, tell me what's confusing. And we gathered all of those comments and then built the product based on that. And so one of the things we found, and I think you touched on this, which is really listening to the voice of the customer, is that we didn't have to sell very hard once we had done that, because as soon as people saw that, they really understood that this was built for something for them. And so getting that in early and building the product around that really helps later in the sales cycle.
Krista, you probably have a lot of experience in this, in that you have a social platform that does that listens to the community's voice. I mean, can you share a little bit about what your experiences are?
It's almost like we have a marketplace. I think you and I have talked about that because we, Naturally Curly, which is a brand within Texture Media's portfolio, is the flagship brand, started as a bulletin forum for community members. And so organically, this thing grew into a product review database, a stylist review database, articles, Q&A, video. And this is all created by the community. So our team today produces 30 pieces of content a week. Our community creates 40,000 pieces of content a month. So they, early on, this is their community, not ours. And so they inform our decisions every day. And you know, we want to find better tools to listen to them, but we're always gathering data and packaging that up. And anytime we put a survey out, it's 5,000 respondents within 48 hours. So we get plenty of feedback. I think right now we're struggling with some nuances within the community of how to parse that out. And then we also have a community of brands. You name a hair care brand, we probably work with them or want to, who also are our customers who want to get in front of this community. And I think that's listening to them is very important as well, but sometimes those groups want to do very different things, which therein lies the rub a lot of times.
Jeanette, did you have anything else you wanted to say in that? Or, I mean, Jeanette is literally my hero in terms of bootstrapping. She is the bootstrapping queen. And I would love for you to take this question a little closer to what are some, and do you have any ideas and examples of low-cost marketing techniques and things that you use when you have really not raised that round? Even though I will say that the second thing she does very well is she gets grants. And she has funded the company now on multiple grants. If any of you saw a recent article that Laura Larick at Silicon Hills, Laura, where are you? You did a good job of bringing out that Texas and particularly Austin women are not signing up for these grants, and they're available. So let me just pitch that over to you, because you were one of those who did, and you received how much was it, the grant recently?
Yes, we have been very fortunate. So we have 2 grants now, 2 SBI or small business grants, one from DARPA and one from NIH, and about $2 million right now. So it has been great. That's non-dilutive. You don't have to pay it back, and they have been so supportive, especially the people at DARPA. They've helped us commercialize and get connected to different people. So it's been a great experience. And so we do, but we are bootstrapping with the $2 million, which sounds kind of funny, but we do really watch everything that we spend, and we are very creative about doing things, inexpensively. We've done a lot of pitch contests, and we've actually won several, and it's not so much to do the pitch contest, but you get a lot of press out of that, and that press then brings in people. And one thing we have found is just having a very content-rich website. Our customers are more the scientists, laboratory-based people who really want that information. And so we've made sure the press helps our SEO. We're on the first page of the Google search. That's helped a lot. And so we have just pulled in a lot of our customers from that. Finding the right customer and getting there. When we first started, I would go out and sell this, and I would just, I realized I'm doing all the talking, and I better just shut up and listen to what they want. And that's when you really start hearing, here's what we have, what would you do with it? And that's when we really started finding our best fit, and just letting people come to us. They find us on the websites, and that has, for us at least, that has been the best way to find our right customer.
Either of you have any other any things to add on that? What I would be really curious, especially as we close here, because we are running a little bit long, but when you look out at the audience and you see a lot of young entrepreneurs, and I say young meaning young in the cycle. Many of us waited until after we'd been in corporate America for several years before we launched a company. But what advice would you give them in terms of just how to keep sane and to have the confidence to actually launch? I mean, what is the one thing that comes to your mind when you think about telling someone here what you would do if you had it to do over again?
Drink more wine.
Sure.
Yes, agree on the wine, definitely, and beer's not bad either. One thing I would suggest you do is get involved with a group of people that are involved in starting a business too. So whether it's an accelerator, an incubator, an entrepreneur class. For me, it was, it's now called a VIN Day. It was a women's entrepreneur group. And that has been so beneficial and so influential. My marketing director is from that class. My lab partner, who started her own company, we support each other. Just over and over, I see a lot of faces in the audience that I've met through that. It's just been so helpful. And take advice. You'll get advice from a lot of people. People will, offer that, and it's great. Everybody's very helpful. Really trust the advice from people who have actually done that, what you're asking about, and been there. Listen to the advice that people who haven't, but really trust who has been there. It's a whole lot different than being in a book and a theory and actually doing it.
And I would just say, just do it. Because I think before you jump in and you're on the outside looking in, you think that everybody else has this special handbook of how to get everything done, how to get funding, how to bootstrap, how to hire, how to grow, how to sell stuff. And no one knows, no one, not just entrepreneurs, but even people in large companies. They're just trying to do it one day at a time too. And so if you have a really unique idea and you have the opportunity to do that, don't hold yourself back thinking that everybody else has some special knowledge that you don't. I mean, you learn by doing, and I love the idea of having mentors and reaching out to people who've been there and have that kind of experience. But but nothing beats doing it. So that would be my advice to everybody who's thinking about it. Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Because I really want to be able to take a question or two from the audience, we're going to run 5 minutes late, because I really would love to fire back from the audience just 1 or 2 questions. We'll have more time next time. I promise we'll make sure we have enough buffer to be able to have the time for it. But what is a question that has come up for you, for our audience today, that you would like to ask? And Heather, why don't you take that back up to the audience? We'll share this one. So don't be shy. You have your moment.
How do you balance the personality between yourself and your co-founder?
How do you balance the personality between you and your co-founder?
Are there other more answers to that?
Everyone's afraid.
I don't have a co-founder. I'm a single co-founder, so that makes it easier. But I do work with my husband, so it is not without challenge.
All kidding aside, I'm not the co-founder. Michelle and Gretchen started the company together, but I think I consider Michelle and I probably work as co-founders very closely. We have very different personalities, and I think back to listening to your customer, listen and understand your co-founder. And Joel Trammell, some of you may know him. He's a very successful entrepreneur here in town, successful exits. I took a class from him a couple years ago, and he introduced me to the Strength Finder series, which my team probably loves and hates at the same time. But that's a really easy sort of tool in the insight tools and all those things. They're not hokey. I think really trying to understand where someone else is coming from. We do have very different personalities, but the Strength Finder is a really cheap and easy way, if you take it seriously, to understand how to communicate with people who are very different from you.
Sure. One thing I would say is think hard and fast about whether you really need a co-founder or whether you need employees. I think a co-founder is somebody who brings a very different skill set than you that you wouldn't be able to sort of purchase in the market. And sometimes I think women tend to want to partner up with somebody because it's scary to go it alone, but there are a lot of challenges in having co-founders and significant stakeholders in your company from the get-go. I would say if you are going to have co-founders, I love Krista's point. I mean, know your own strengths and know theirs, and hopefully they bring very different strengths to the table. And one of the things I always talk to my leadership team about is when you have somebody across the table that has a very different perspective than you, that has a very different skill set than you, sometimes the natural tendency is to try to pull the person over to your side. Right, and the more they feel pulled, the more they retreat, and so it starts to become very polarizing. But to really talk about those different skills that you're putting on the table and come a little bit closer rather than going further into what you both bring into the table.
And while you're asking them, I was going to say a code word's also great, which sounds funny. I think ours was macaroni for a long time. So if you're in a really heated argument where you're doing just exactly what Zainab said, pause, have that code word, and that's kind of the neutral ground for you both to kind of go back to your corners and think about and process what you've talked about. That's good.
So for people who have a startup idea or have already begun building their business, bootstrapping, can they really do it from small town Texas, or do we need to incubate here in Austin? And my question is more about how often and do we need to be in this limelight in order to make it successful? Because I hear success stories coming from histories of people who've developed things out of their bedrooms, and that's fantastic, but I think I find that to be a challenge, and I want to be around people like this more often. So would you advise taking the plunge and trying to set up some sort of incubation situation in a larger town?
I think having people around you that are doing the same thing or advisors is critical. And so whether you can do that remotely, by Skype or phone calls, that would be a little more challenging. I think you could if you're very motivated, and it depends on what type of business you have also. But you can, there's people all over the world, that can help you. So if you are good at reaching out and keeping in contact with people, I think it can be done.
So I bootstrap my company from my dining room, and I think we've kept a very low profile in Austin, so I'm going to give a little bit of a controversial answer. I think you need to really focus on your customers and the employees that you need to bring to attain that level of success. I do find that some people spend a lot of time on the startup scene and not necessarily on their customers and making their own company grow. Now, it's great to have mentors and it's great to have like-minded people and bounce around those ideas, and that creates a lot of energy. But it's also a lot of time investment, and I'd be careful about that time investment, especially in the early stages. But do reach out to mentors and people who've done that and people who energize you, but I don't think that it's necessary to be on the startup scene.
That reminds me just of one I heard at a conference one time that I love. The only difference between networking and not working is one vowel.
Okay, last question. We have an opportunity for a flash question. So just ask anything, but it's got to be quick. It'll be a flash question, and they'll have their one phrase answer. You make it provocative.
Very provocative. Achiever first. Did you raise your hand? No? Okay. All right. Well, then I'll come back here. There you go.
How many more ideas do you have waiting to hatch?
Many.
One.
I have many, but probably 99% are really bad ideas.
I think a lot. I mean, once you had success with one, you're like, holy moly, I could totally do this over and over again. So lots.
So it would be so much fun to stay and really delve more. We're just getting started, but we'll end the program at that point. Thank you guys. We really appreciate it. A minute about roundtables, because now, because of the work of our website partners innovation, you can actually sign up online for roundtables. These are the smaller curated events that I was telling you about that are topic oriented, and we usually do them as lunch and learns. And I again want to just speak to innovation's participation here and how much they worked with us to make our website usable. They're just amazing, and if you do have an opportunity and you want to get that 1 hour free consulting, I hope you will talk to them, because you'll have the same experience that we had. But we started these roundtables as a prototype to see if it was something that people wanted. Last June, actually, we did one in June that was led by Laura Kilcrease on funding. Usually our steering committee takes turns, and we do one each month. In July, Monique Maley did Perfecting Your Pitch. August and September, Pam O'Neill did a marketing roundtable. We've had phenomenal feedback on all of these. Everyone wants more, so we're going to give you more. And so the next roundtable is October the 23rd. It's going to be called Finding Paying Customers in the Early Stage, Your Early Adopter Profile. I'm going to be leading that one because it's a passion of mine to really close those first customers, and why it's repeatable and why there actually is a methodology to think about. So we're going to be doing it in the Capital Factory classroom, so we can have a little bit more room and maybe get 30, 35 people in there. If you want to sign up, again, it's on the website. The next one, Yvonne Tacchini. Tacchini is also one of our steering committee members, is going to be doing one in November. That will be posted soon. It'll be one of the topics of her choice around, obviously, marketing, and she is fabulous. If you've ever had that opportunity, like we at Capital Factory have had, to see her teach and to really talk to you as an early stage company, that is an amazing opportunity. And then back by demand, Laura Kilcrease in December is going to be doing another funding seminar. So she will be able to talk to you more about the difference between the different types of funding and access to capital. I mean, with her background at Triton Ventures, she really has a unique perspective here. So back to what we were saying, these are things you can learn, you can teach. It's focused on the customer that you cannot. And then the last thing I wanted Melly Price, who's back in the back, to talk about is that Capital Factory has agreed to give us an opportunity to be mentored in a large mentoring environment. What do we call our mentoring days?
Yeah, it's called the Capital Factory Epic Office Hours. We actually hosted it this afternoon as part of an ATX starter call, and we're proud to announce we're going to do a women-focused one. So save the date, November 25th is what we're looking at. Quick show of hands, because I've heard that this community may actually prefer mornings. We typically do it in the afternoon. So who would prefer mornings? Who would prefer afternoons? And who would prefer evenings? Okay.
And Melly, if you could explain a little bit more about Epic Office Hours.
Epic Office Hours, we just hosted 140 entrepreneurs and 40 mentors this afternoon. That's kind of our typical setup. We do it twice a year, ATX starter call and South by Southwest. So I think, like, I'm the managing director at Capital Factory, and I kind of quietly for years have sat on the sidelines of women startup scenes. And those of you that know me, I'm more of a roll up the sleeves kind of girl. So I was like, how awesome would it be if we have all women mentors? Men are welcome, but the priority is going to be, get women who have been there and done it before, and it's a one-on-one pairing with an entrepreneur. So the process is that you'll get an email. You need to email me, mellyprice@capitalfactory.com. I'm going to compile the list, and we'll send out an invite, and then you go through and you select the topics or the people that you're interested in specifically meeting with. And then we take a 3-hour slot and we give you the opportunity to meet one-on-one with some of these people. So it's a natural extension to the networking and to the roundtables. It's really an opportunity to go one-on-one in a it's a very structured environment. You can meet with investors, you can meet with subject matter experts, you can meet with mentors, potential co-founders, etc. So we really, are looking forward to working with Jan and women at Austin on that. It's the first time we're doing it, and we're a startup in and of ourselves. So we're welcome to feedback if you have thoughts about it. Set it up. I'm open, wide open.
Thank you so much, Mom. Yes.
Beth and I did it this afternoon for the second time. We went. It was totally awesome. Everybody here should do it. So thank you.
It's so encouraging to know that our incubators in town are really getting involved with women. Capital Factory has been involved from the beginning. You even can see on the monitors now, 45% women's images. Things are really happening there. The Techstars had a hugely successful, very strong class this summer. 3 of the 11 companies in Techstars, Jason's somewhere here, were women. So, and strong. In fact, I think all 3 of them have been funded at this point, haven't they, Jason, or close to it? This close? So what I'm saying is I'm really encouraging you to get involved in some of these things you may never have been involved before. These are access to resources and connections, like we talked about, to make this community vibrant and really make a difference in an actionable way for your idea or for your company. So thanks for coming, everyone. We love you, and we really encourage you to be bold, and let us hear from you, and we'll be in touch very soon. Okay.